Carlos Andrés Gómez.
I love hip-hop. Hip-hop is probably the main reason that I'm a writer. I remember being in the basement of my best friend, Brent's parents' house, listening to Nas, listening to Wu-Tang, and that was where I first really fell in love with words. Up until that point, I had a very complicated relationship with language and with words because I learned to read very late, and I was a slow reader, and I just didn't like writing at all. I didn't like reading at all. And when I was in high school, I'd go to MC battles, and I had a bunch of friends who would, they'd freestyle battle with people. I had friends who were b-boys, and I'd always be on the sidelines, just sort of bop my head, watching, right on the fringe. But I think after years of going almost every weekend, I think that's what kind of pushed me, made me stumble towards poetry. Hip-hop it's a big question because obviously in mainstream hip-hop and very commercialized hip-hop, you see a lot of very destructive, hyper-masculine, machismo examples of what it means to be a man. The gender roles are incredibly rigid, and I think it's kind of demeaning to everyone in a lot of ways. But I think that hip-hop, like any art form, it has many different representations in it. And mainstream commercialized hip-hop, like any other genre or art form, is not representative, I think, of the culture or of the culture of hip-hop. I think the culture of hip-hop, when you look at the source and the history of it, is really a space for a lot of people who've been marginalized, who didn't have a voice, weren't able to express themselves, and they were able to talk about what was happening in their communities, talk about their history, and reimagine healthier ways for them to exist. And I think when you look at some more, underground hip hop, and I hate that term because it's so non-specific and it doesn't really represent anything. But I only say that to say that the hip hop that doesn't get the same mainstream exposure, I think in a lot of that you see a lot of really groundbreaking examples, and people who are really challenging gender roles and challenging ideas, concepts of how people can be pigeonholed or marginalized because of race, class, gender, anything. So that's the cleanest way I can answer that question, but it's a big question. Well, I know it's been a very conscious thing. There are a lot of words that I used to use that I don't use anymore at all. And the way that I terminalize people, I call people brother a lot, very intentionally. It was very unnatural at first, but I do it very intentionally. And it was very much, the seed was planted by the documentary that inspired that poem. The poem is called How to Fight. And it's an amazing documentary by Cleabone Sloan, who was a former Athens Park Blood in Los Angeles. And he talks about the history of the Bloods and the Crips. And the movie's called Bastards of the Party. And the title comes from the Bloods and the Crips actually they were the bastard children of the Black Panther Party. A lot of people don't know this. And the Black Liberation Movement. And so he was saying it's a lot easier to kill somebody when you're calling them, the N-word, or you're calling them dog, or you're calling them whatever. It's a lot harder to say, I'm gonna kill that brother. And I was like, wow. And he was talking about changing the way that we speak and the way that we reference each other. And after I watched that, I was like, there's a lot of words I'm gonna dial back and not use anymore. Yeah. Yo, my pleasure. Thank you so much for doing this. Hope you enjoy the show.